So if you want to be a great programmer, then you cannot use Google. All the great programmers don't Google solutions. They know them. They know all the
What are you
comments.
doing
They
here?
what?
No,
N-
you can't just say things like
Look,
this.
we're not
Bitch,
gonna do
we
this
talked
right now.
about this.
I'm
You
recording a
can't
video.
be doing
I
videos
don't
like
have my
this
own channel. I
on my
can't do
platform. Like,
that.
you want your own channel? Get your own channel.
Somebody has to
But you
break it to
can't be
them
recording
that
videos
they
like
won't be a
this
good
on my
programmer
channel.
if they have to
Okay?
Google things.
No,
You're lying
get
to
out.
them if
Get out.
people blame you,
I don't want to see
right?
you here.
Oh,
Get out. All right, sorry about that. A little miscommunication happened. If you want to be a good programmer, then you can definitely use Google. Everybody uses Google. Even this idiot over there uses Google. So let's talk about using Google as a professional. Let's go. All right, so I wanted to make this video because I see in so many places people being surprised or curious as to whether or not professionals, people who have decades of expertise in the industry or programming language or whatever, they're surprised that these people actually Google answers, that they don't just have all these answers. And I just wanted to make this video to dispel that myth that professionals don't use Google. They know everything. And to an extent that can be true, that professionals with years and years of experience use Google less and less because they've seen the problems repeated over and over again. They've solved the same problems, and so now they know how to solve them. But that being said, there are still problems that appear that people have never seen. And using Google is basically a way to ask the general programming or IT or cloud community at large to say, I have this problem. Have you encountered it? And a lot of things that you find when you Google stuff is not necessarily Stack Overflow or whatever. Sometimes you actually find documentation from the vendor. And of course, people go and look at the documentation from the vendor or the developer or whatever. So there has to be a way to find those. You don't just learn the whole documentation by heart. I think it's important to mention that people's job, programmers, software engineers, cloud engineers, and all these IT professionals, their job is not to program, their job is not to deploy infrastructure, their job is to solve problems. And you don't have all the solutions. And if somebody has all the solutions, that's a problem. If you're the smartest person in the room, you have a problem. And that's true. If you don't accept that there are things you will not know as a professional and that you will have to look for the answers, then you're not a good professional. You are way too confident in your limited knowledge compared to infinite knowledge on the internet. All right, let's look at the situation where you would need to have this knowledge memorized and not Googled. And that situation is when you are a doctor. If you are a doctor and you have a patient that is dying in front of you in the ER and you have to save their lives, you don't want the doctor to be like, hey, you know what? 1 second, let me just Google how to perform this surgery. You don't want your doctor to be doing that. And in the world of IT, those doctors are basically people who are responding to emergency situations, and they have to have the knowledge to be able to perform those actions. And just like in the emergency settings, these people, these doctors are extremely qualified, but they also don't work on a lot of problems, right? They don't do plastic surgery. They don't do cancer. They don't do things like that. Like, if you have a problem, these doctors have a limited set of problems that they will solve that are classified as emergency. And the same thing happens with IT, your cybersecurity or infrastructure people. They have a small set of problems that come up as emergencies. And what you want to do with these emergencies is you want to know the procedures by heart. You want to be able to respond immediately to these problems without Googling anything, because otherwise it would just take forever and it will be difficult to solve. the problems. So don't worry about learning everything by heart. When you're a fresh graduate, nobody expects you to be able to respond to these types of situations. They are problems that are reserved for people with years of experience who have a higher chance of being able to resolve these problems on the spot. Knowledge comes with experience. You also have to keep in mind that our technology world is changing extremely rapidly. And what you learn by heart today is probably invalid by next year. So, learning things by heart in technology has very little value because, well, your knowledge, unless you learn things by heart on a continuous basis, your knowledge will become more and more outdated. And that's just the way the technology world works. So, gain experience, gain understanding of certain situations, build your tool set with things that you're like, you know what, I use this a lot and I'm going to learn this because it is important to my career. But everything else, you don't have to learn it. You have to understand it and you have to know where to find the answers. And that's it.